Did you know that during the Victorian period, women did not cut their hair? They wanted their hair to grow as long as possible, preferably to the ground, like this lady here. Long, luscious locks were considered the ultimate beauty ideal because it was incredibly feminine. The Victorians were obsessed with gender roles and the different spheres, and so women were very much meant to look feminine and womanlike, and to do that, they were expected to keep their hair long and beautiful. As a result, as with everything governing women's appearance, the rules surrounding hair were very strict indeed. Until the age of about 15 or 16, young girls were expected to wear their hair long and loose, and it was visible to everyone. And then once they reached that age of 16, they were then expected to put their hair up, and this signified that they were becoming women. Women could dress their hair in any which way they wanted as long as it was up, and this was considered the way to show your hair in public. Long hair after the age of 16 was an absolute no-no. Hair equated to femininity and, of course, sexuality and sexiness. And so to have one's hair down like this was considered a very intimate act, and usually women would only do this in the privacy of their own home, and it would only be seen by their husbands or their maids. Long hair was also a symbol of healthiness, of a lack of disease, of being well nourished, well fed, and as a result it could also equate to wealth. Having such long tresses to look after would also suggest that you had the time to take out of your day or your week to actually maintain it. Washing hair this long could often take a whole day, and to dry it took hours. And of course, one of the most famous women who had this incredibly long hair was Empress Elizabeth of Austria, known as Sissy, who I've talked about on countless occasions. And as I've mentioned before, Sissy was obsessed with her hair, and she wanted it to be as beautiful and glorious as possible. So as a result, she had a dedicated hairdresser who dressed her hair every day, and she had various regimes to ensure that it kept in its best condition. Having long hair could also make you quite famous, and this was the case for the 7 Sutherland sisters. These 7 sisters from New York were all famous for their incredibly long hair that reached the ground. They also did a singing act which made them incredibly famous, and from this they created a whole range of hair beauty products which made them quite wealthy. But with this obsession for long hair came actually quite a great toll on women's health, because the extreme heaviness of the hair caused excruciating headaches for many of these women. Empress Sissy regularly complained of chronic headaches, which was caused by the weight of her hair. And when it was put up in these elaborate hairdos for formal occasions, all of the pins and the hair pieces made it even more cumbersome. And yet, because long hair was so tied up with women's appearance, women's place in society, women's looks, it meant that it continued well on into the 20th century. It was actually only in the 1920s when young women, also known as flappers, decided to chop their hair in protest. These fashionable new short hairstyles were seen as incredibly shocking and scandalous because it was so akin to the masculine hairstyles. These women were rejecting their Victorian values, and they were trying to embrace a new and golden age. But that is a whole other story which I shall cover at a later date.